Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Professor Nenden and also Dr. Fajri as our lectures for EFL teaching methodology, and also my classmates in this class. Well, today I'm going to talk to you my reading report entitled Problem-Based Learning, or PBL. So there are 3 points that I would like to discuss for my presentation. The first one is I would like to share to you the inclusions of very related theories of PBL, including a brief history of PBL, and then pedagogical underpinning of PBL, and also the implementation of PBL in language teaching. And then the second points, I would like to share to you my critical analysis, and finally the conclusion. Well, so we're gonna talk first the definitions of PBL that we know over the years. Researchers working in teaching methodology, such as Al-Busaidi, 2021, and then 2021, and then also Aslan and many more. They have defined simply problem-based learning as the teaching strategy in which learning is driven by a problem. So in this regard, the main characteristic of PBL is problem-oriented, yeah, in which the students are responsible in taking their own learning. And then the students also learn how to build their prior knowledge or their funds of knowledge, and then they have to focus on the process of knowledge acquisitions rather than on the product of such a process. So that's the first thing that we need to understand about problem-based learning. And then the second point, I would like to share it to you about a brief history of PBL. It is started in 1960s, proposed by Howard Barons. He is an American neurology professor from Manchester University in Canada. And then he widely used in Limburg University, New Skelter University, and Association of American Medical College. So mostly these kinds of strategy used in medical education. And then Howard Barons here used PBL as knowledge acquisitions, in terms of knowledge acquisitions, and then in terms of knowledge applications, and then also extensions. And recently, the experts have developed these kinds of strategy, this PBL strategy, into several terms, yes, such as COLP in experiential learning, and then Kogan in reflective practitioner, and then some VAMS experts, yes, VAMS experts in language education, such as Piaget, Vygotsky, Leff, and Minger. They construct this PBL into constructivism and social learning. And also, many studies also mention that PBL in relation to inquiry-based learning. Even though those two strategies are different, yeah, PBL and inquiry-based learnings, they have their own characteristics. But most of researchers try to understand PBL as inquiry-based learning also. And then the second point, I would like to share to you the pedagogical underpinning of PBL. Yeah, it is taken from the Republic Polytechnic Singapore, cited in the books of O'Grady, 2012. So there are several points of pedagogical underpinning here, such as we know here. The first one is PBL started from the students' prior knowledge, in which their fund of knowledge or their prior knowledge, what they have known before, it's really really matter, yeah, in understanding or in relating the problems that they are going to solve, yeah. So this is the importance of prior knowledge, students' prior knowledge. And then the second point, it's about collaborative team setting in a social context. So PBL here, it strong to the collaborative team settings, yeah, in which they work together in group, and then they have to collaborate with other students in order to solve the problem based on the problems addressed. And then the third point is learner-centeredness in the focus. Yeah, so here it is not about teacher centers, means that the teachers or the educators, they just need to facilitate the students to acquire their learning or their insights of learning through the problems proposed at the beginning. And then the next point is learning takes place through self-directed discovery and then questionings. So this is questionings plays a very important role in triggering their critical thinking, yeah, or their skills of problem solving, so that the students are forced to have such a autonomous learning, because they try to learn how to learn, yeah, by themselves. I mean, started from the problems, and they finally get the answers by themselves. And then the next point is the use of problems acts as a stimulus for learning. So here's the crucial, or the main points of PBL that is started from the problem. So further, I would tell you what is the effective problems for designing problem-based learning. And then the last one is critical reflections. It happens through the learning process. So this is not about the result, this is not about the product, but the process of getting the knowledge, yeah. So that the critical reflections, it happens during the teaching learning process. And then the next point is talking about the principles of designing learning experience using PBL. Many researchers propose, I try to sum up these kinds of principle in designing learning experience using PBL, because this is very crucial, yeah, in terms of, if we talk about teaching learning activities, it means that we need to design appropriate techniques according to its specific cycles or its specific characteristic. So here in PBL, the first thing that we need to do is we need to guide and support learners to actively construct their own learning, as opposed to providing information to passive receivers. So as what I said before, that in this case, the teacher or the educator, they play as a facilitator rather than the teacher or those who delivering the knowledge. Yeah. So the problems or the challenge is how to guide them in order to engage in the teaching, in the learning process here. And then the second point is allow learners to take the lead and scaffolds by observing, noticing, reflecting, and responding. So here also the things that need to be considered well when we design the teaching learning using PBL. So the students need to have much time to do some activities which can scaffold them to find out or to solve the problems proposed at the beginning, such as observing, noticing, reflecting, and responding. And then the third point is personalized learning. Means that the students need to connect their individual styles and creativity, and then the teacher needs to provide some opportunities for the expansion. So it is important to give them more more space, yeah, or more time to be creative, yeah, to be creative or to explore their individual styles of learning, yeah, whether they are tends to be visual, or there tends to be auditory or kinesthetic, and others. Yeah, so that several journals also found that it is effective, yeah, to use problem-based learning in terms of uh, learning style, students' learning style, yeah, to facilitate students' learning style. And then the fourth point is allow learners to walk in multiple directions, and then guiding them through questionings. As what I said before, that questionings, it is very important in terms that it needs to, it needs kinds of questions which can stimulate their higher order thinking skills. Yeah, so it is not only just as a simple questions or yes or no questions, but tends to be the questions that can make them discuss together and stimulate their higher order thinking. And then the last one is implement multi-phase assessment through a meaningful connected context throughout the program. So it is also important in designing learning experience that they have a meaningful experience. Yeah, in order to get a meaningful experience, so they have to connect what they learned or the problems here with their real life. Yeah, so it is important to propose such problems which they can find out in their daily life. They can, they are familiar in their life, yeah, rather than the problems that they haven't known before. Right. And talking about the problems as the main points in PBL, so it is important to understand what is the effective problem. So here you and Go 2016 propose several characteristics of effective problems. The first one is led to learning issues. So yeah, it something's related to the educations, of course, yeah. Or the issues in learning or in education. And then the second, trigger interest. So that's why I said before that it will be easier for the students if they have already known about, or they have been familiar with the problems before, so that they can recall their prior knowledge in order to help them to solve the problems. And then the third point was a suitable format. And then the fourth one is stimulated critical reasoning. So it has a strong correlations with the questionings activity given by the teachers or the instructor in the process, in which when the teacher or the facilitator or educator propose some problems or and allowing by the higher order questions, yeah, so they have a good reason why they do such that, yeah, I mean, why they think the way they think, why they do the way they do. Yeah, so it needs critical reasoning. So it's not just only following their friends or due to the theory, but they have a real reason based on their own finding. And then promoted self-directed learning. Yes, so a good questions, it must, I mean, a good problem must enable to lead the students to be autonomous learners. So yeah, try to over the questions or the problems which is uh, demanding or debatable, or I mean, it can be different answers, or it can be different solving, yeah, one each other, so that they will be more independent, they will be more autonomous. And then words of suitable clarity, and then words of appropriate difficulty, and then enable application or use related to prior knowledge, stimulated elaborations, and promoted teamwork. Elaboration and also teamwork, that two main characteristic also of PBL, in which they have to work in group, and then they share their idea, they try to solve the problems together, and participate in a group discussion. All right. And then here is the model of PBL. Yes. As we see here, actually, there are many articles, many researches talking about the cycles or the process of problem-based learning. But obviously, these kinds of strategy must be started by developing problems, of course. Yeah. So the first thing is the teachers or the educator need to develop the problems. Yeah. They need to design the problems that reflect the learning objective and then must be connected with the students' real world. And then the second pace is activate existing knowledge. It is also important in relation to the students' prior knowledge. And many research also found that the more the students familiar with the problems, the better solutions they can find out to solve the problems. And then identify required knowledge. So here, the teachers or the educators need to provide some prompt in terms of a theory that can help students to find the solutions of the problems. Yeah, and then of course the students need to expand their source of knowledge in order to find a solution. And then doing research, it is also important, or means as the students do such an inquiry activity. Yeah, so they started from the problems and then they uh, find the what is it, the references, yeah, in terms of theory in order to support their existing knowledge or their prior knowledge. And then finally they try to assess, yeah, they I mean, they try to share the solution to the other members of the group. And then they have to do such a analysis, yeah, critically analysis. So here, they have to review, they have to analyze, they have to evaluate. So in this case, I guess that problem-based learning is a very appropriate in promoting students' critical thinking, yeah, or students' higher order thinking, because there is a pace of a critically analysis, yeah, in finding the solutions of the problem. And then there is also reflect and compare, yeah, because they work in several groups and then they have to show their findings to other groups, and then also they try to reflect what they have learned, and they also at the same time compare their own their solutions with others group members. Yeah, so there is a cooperative learnings activations in here. And then share solution. Here's that the learners may share their solution through the presentation or the written format. So the format can be in a written form or in the oral forms. Yeah, in the forms of presentations or in the forms of written or essay project. And then the last one is assess. Talking about assessment, many articles or many research also what is it, agree that holistical assessment is quite complicated in problem-based learning, because they have to assess such a comprehensive of uh, critical thinking, and then collaborations, yeah, and other skills, yeah, their cognitive skills, also their attitude. So it's quite complicated also in assessment. But one of the strategy to evaluate learners' understanding and skills is by using such a portfolio or a video presentations or mini seminar, yeah, something like that. All right. So the next points I would go to my critical analysis towards some previous study regarding PBL. The first one is the lack of relevant findings. I mean that I found it is still a lack of relevant findings that discuss the correlations between problem familiarity and students' learning achievement. As mentioned before, that uh, the more the students familiar with the problems, the easier they will find out the solutions of the problems. But there are still lack of a previous study or lack of research in investigating in detail about um, how effective the I mean how effective this hypothesis uh, in terms of PBL here. Yeah, I mean, so it can be our further research relating to PBL to know whether it is always has correlations, yeah, between the students' problem familiarity and also their achievement in learning. And then the second point, it's about yeah, the combinations of well-designed problem with appropriate hard and soft scaffolding. Yeah, I think it's a very crucial things, yeah, in achieving the effective learning of PBL, because it is not only um, the matter of effective problem, but also the appropriate scaffoldings, yeah, from the teachers or the educators given to the students, yeah, because they have to follow several paces, so that it is not only about the problems itself, but how the teacher can uh, provide effective scaffolding activity to the students. It's also a matter. And then collaborative work in PBL leads some challenge for the students. Yeah, I mean here we can take, for instance, the uh, newcomer students, and they have to deal with the collaborative learning, and then they have to deal with autonomous learning in PBL. So it will be kinds of challenge for them. Yeah, so here the teachers or the educator have to work so hard uh, to engage them in these situations, and then to promote their self-confidence, their anxiety, so that they can collaborate well in their groups, because collaborative learnings and also uh, uh, inquiry-based learning or autonomous learning is yeah, are a key elements in PBL. So I mean that the teachers or the educators, they need to be more uh, give more attention, yeah, to their students in these terms. Yeah, that sometimes it's not easy for them to collaborate effectively, to actively engage in the situation. And then the last point is about assessment issue. As what I said before, that many journals mention that what is it, giving such a holistical assessment, it's not easy in PBL, because the teacher or the educator, they need to assess several points, such their I mean in relation to their activity in several cases in PBL, yeah, such as their cognitive knowledge, their behavior, their problem solving skills, their communicative skills, and many more. So that for the assessment issue here, studies suggest such a mini seminar or uh, online seminar in which the students will what is it possible to get comments or feedback, not only from the teachers but also from their peers and also the outsiders of the class. And finally come to my conclusion. So I can conclude that PBL, or problem-based learning, it has been adopted in educational program in variety of disciplines, including language education. And then previous studies prove that PBL has been successfully engaging learners in learning by constructing their fund of knowledge through the relevant, challenging problem solving and sustaining inquiry. Therefore, in PBL, the learners are able to promote their own metacognitive autonomously since they engage to learn how to learn. So here are the references. Okay, thank you. So that's all from my presentations according to the references that I have read. Thank you very much once again. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.